It's like when people come to me with negativity,
Hmm.
I always stop them, calmly look at them and go, what's the best thing that happened to you today so far?
But then you came in, you realized that people related to content only when they had this idea that, yeah, this is a real person and sharing real stories. Welcome everyone to another episode of Yollab Central. Today I'm joined with Fuquan Bilal. And Fuquan, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about our conversation today?
Wow, it's because I guess, today let me start off with this. Every day I wake up and I say, today is the greatest day of my life. And people usually look at me like, what good happened to you that you're saying today is the best day of your life? And I know that everyone heard this before, that it's whatever you make it, right? So if you want to make a good day, you wake up and you tell yourself it's a good day. If you want to ruminate about things from yesterday or later, the argument you had with your spouse or you at with your coworker at work or whatever it is, you can't let those external factors control your emotions. So you have to wake up and claim the day. So
Right.
I'm excited to be here today, to speak to you, to talk more about The Winning Self Image. It's a great book that I read a while ago by Dr. Maxwell Maltz.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. I would
Right.
tell anyone out there to get that book and read it because it talks about creating a winning self-image, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure you guys heard things, you attract what you are, you attract who you are. So you always have to keep that in mind and take one step forward every day with that in mind. So you attract what you are. Your inner is your outer, and
Mm-hmm.
the real wealth is within. So you talked about people who listen to your show who kind of is everyday person, whether they do social media marketing or business owners. And I would challenge them to ask themselves, why do they want entrepreneurship? Why do they want business owners? Why do they want that shift? Do they think it's going to be easier, more rewarding, more money? Like, why? Because I've actually didn't ask myself the question 26 years ago when I
Right.
jumped when I jumped out the window and grew wings falling down, to
Okay.
start my own business,
Mhm. So I guess that's where I can get started. I mean, where does this positivity stem from? This was infective, right? I mean, you said it, today is going to be a great day, and I felt that from the bottom of my heart when you said that out loud. Now, where does this positivity stem from in your life, at least? I know about others, but at least you can share yours.
Through the hardship. I mean, through all of the adversity and hardship that I went through,
Hmm.
I had to learn how to take control over my mind and not let my mind control me. So I am human. I do have certain days where the energy is off, but I kind of get myself back on track. Um, Taking control of your thoughts.
Hmm.
A lot of us don't know how to control our thoughts. They let our thoughts control us and put us into this whirlwind of emotions. And there was actually something that a friend of mine told me a long time ago. We were driving somewhere, and it was three of us. We were in the car, and somebody cut off the driver. The
Okay.
driver got upset, went into this rage,
Hmm.
and my friend was in the passenger seat, and he just looked at the driver and said, "Do you really think that person can hear your anger, your emotions? They probably
Yeah.
forgot about it 2 seconds after they cut you off, and you're sitting here still 5 minutes later, angry and upset."
Yeah.
And that stuck with me that moment to go, if you learn how to control those emotions, then you win.
Hmm.
There's going to be things that's going to happen,
Yes.
setbacks, challenges, but I think Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So
Hmm.
planning to fail is important.
Right. That's very rightly said, right? About hardships, and that's where, I mean, once you felt it and you've been through life, and then you realize, yeah, there's no point on pondering over things like that. Now, the other topic that you picked up about the winning self-image that we want to create about ourselves. Uh, everybody wants to get there, right? They want to have a positive self-image about themselves and they want to see others looking at themselves in a positive light. But this self-image that we create, it's not that somebody else has to help us do that. It is coming from the inside. Now, do you have a particular first step forward that you take or do you suggest others to take?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. There's something I do every single day, and it was I don't know where I heard it from, one of the podcasts or one of the many things that I listen to. They said if in the morning when you start your day and you get in the shower and bathing, try to say the word love 50 to 100 times and watch the emotions that change in you if you just keep saying love, 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 all, as a foundational point each morning. That changes the chemistry in your brain and it brings
Mhm.
different energy to you to start off that day in a positive mindset, right? And even
Very
when you have people that go, it's something that always try to reverse. Like when people come to me with negativity,
good.
I always stop them, calmly look at them and go, what's the best thing that happened to you today so far?
Hmm.
Right? When they come to me with any challenge or problem and they ready to vent and bring me into their pain body, I just look at them and go, what's the best thing that happened to you today so far?
Yeah.
And it's automatic. You'll just try
Changes
that
the
with
order, yeah.
somebody. Try that with somebody. You'll see how they shift because
Mhm.
they now have to think of something positive from that
Yeah.
negative emotion that they're in, and you'll see the shift. And people who know me, they'll just after a few times they go, "Oh, they just walk away from me," and I'm happy because now I don't have to take on those negative emotions that they want to share with me.
That's actually a cool tip. I mean, if somebody is coming at you trying to say that no, I want to vent, I'm trying to blow off some steam, and then just talk to them about what's the best thing that happened today, or just talk about what was the best thing that happened with you today. I don't think that would be very intuitive to actually start blabbering about what was the best thing that happened with yourself because they are in a negative state of mind, and they're not exactly in the state of mind to be listening to somebody else's good day. But yeah, you're right. The shift in mind space is probably what we want them to do. Uh, Coming from mind space now, let's talk about yourselves. How's your journey been? You mentioned about all the hardships that you do had. Sorry about that, but about the hardships that you've taken and how you're helping others do similar things with their life. Any stories you want to share regarding that?
Well, do helping others is through leadership, right? Real
Mhm.
leadership is an influence, right? People um, watch how what you do, and if it resonates with them, they are influenced by it, and they want to
Yeah,
implement it. Those are the things that I've learned from real leaders. How did they influence me to implement some of these characteristics that they
yeah,
have to put me in a better mindset? But there were a lot of things that brought my hardship from growing up in a single parent household, one mom, five kids. Um, Left on her own financially to raise us. So that was some hardships that I went through growing up, moving from place to place. Mom did a great job and helped build the foundation.
hmm,
And the other hardships I went through in my life were financial hardships, going through the global financial crisis in 2008 when the real
yeah,
estate market collapsed. I was a heavy player in the business at the time. Really wasn't running a business. I was in the business probably for 9 years, but not really running a business. I was just doing, right? Just buying
yeah,
houses, fixing them, selling them.
hmm,
Wasn't really running it like a real business. And when I had that setback, it really made me think of how do I build a stronger foundation. And then from that point, I had to learn some of the tools that you have as a business owner, whether
right,
it's monitoring the numbers, the KPIs, setting up proper systems in place, standard operating procedures, the whole gamut of things that you need to be a successful entrepreneur. So a lot of people just think, because they don't work a job that they're an entrepreneur. And, you have a hustle and you
yeah.
have a career. So
Mhm.
whatever brings you peace, though, whatever makes you happy at the end of the day, that's all that matters is your why that we started off with.
Yeah.
The conversation is, why are you choosing to be this entrepreneur? Why are you choosing to go in the direction that you're going? And that the answer to that will always have you waking up out of bed in the morning to
Mhm.
attack.
Now, there's two different directions I want to go. One is the influence part, where we talk about leadership, and the other is the entrepreneurship part. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship, and you mentioned, right, everybody has their own why, and people who choose to do the jobs, they're also having a hustle. They might have a hustle, or they might just stick to their shift. But even, I mean, a lot of companies have this concept of an intrapreneur, right? Where a person is sitting inside and then they do entrepreneurial activities. But I feel, in some sense or the other, every person, whether they be doing a job or they be doing an actual business, they are an entrepreneur in their own sense, because they have to sell their own skills, they have to sell what they're doing in the company, because unless and until you tell somebody else what you're doing, you're not going to be getting that praise or appraisal, because if you people don't know what you're doing, that's kind of the thing, right? What would you say to that?
All right, you're absolutely right. If you look at it that way, then performance happen.
Yeah.
But if you look at it at, I'm just going to go in and do my 40 hours and that's it,
Yeah.
you will never go above and beyond that.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's who you are, if you're just a nine to five or a person that
Hmm.
backs into the parking spot so they don't waste any additional time to pull out when they go to
Yeah.
work, leaving work, to
Right.
save that extra 10 seconds, and that's cool, right? If you're the track star that runs out the door at 4:55, it's okay.
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes time for quarterly reviews and bonuses, there should be no expectation, because
Hmm.
the people who do the minimum,
Yep.
they get the minimum. But if
That's
you
right.
are, like you said, of an owner mindset and you go
Hmm.
in and you add value, um, you get paid for value,
Yeah.
not time. So
Mhm.
there's people who can work less than 40 hours and add value
That's right.
and benefit from it.
Mhm.
So really is it's the old saying, whatever you put into it is what you get out of it. And that's with yourself. If you're exercising on a regular, good eating habits, if you're staying keeping that regimen and those disciplines with
Yeah.
anything, starting with yourself first, it will correlate to what you do. And one last thing I want to say is, I think it was Jim Rohn that I heard this from. He said, um, work on yourself more,
Hmm.
right? So when you're at a job, you work constantly working on yourself, and it's not what are you getting, is what are you becoming.
Okay.
You
Hmm.
know.
I'll check that up. So yeah, the other one that I was talking about, the real leadership coming from influence, right? Now, in this day and age where everybody has the opportunity to um, give off some form of influence, right? I mean, people did have that earlier as well, but that was kind of limited. People had their specific circles, or they were limited by where they were living and who they lived with. But now in the age of the internet, you go online and then you talk on, let's say we're having a conversation on this podcast, or you just uh, make a video, release a reel, or you give out a TikTok, and then people relate, and then people start getting influenced by random people, right? Um, would you call that real leadership? I mean, obviously there is an aspect of influence involved in that, and sometimes people start looking up to these influencers, right? And but how do people decide there? Because one reel cannot become the deciding factor, right? That's at least what I think.
I mean, I look at that, as you mentioned, there's so much content that's online that people gravitate to, right?
Yeah.
It's like music, right? Someone hears a good song, they're going to keep playing it over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Because they align with that energy, or they
Yeah.
align with that vibration, or whatever they're hearing from this person, whether it's an influencer or anyone. Like
Mhm.
we're all students all the time, whether it's from our
Yeah.
kids, our friends, somebody online, book we're reading. we're students. We're constantly learning. I mean, that's at least the mindset you should be in to
Yeah.
grow, right? It's the only way you grow. So I love it. I love that is that much information out there now, as opposed to when we grew up, where
Mhm.
it wasn't an abyss of information where you can learn faster.
Yeah.
Especially now with bringing it back to like AI and social media.
Hmm.
I think it's a good thing. I don't think there's nothing negative about where your influence come from, as long as it's something that's going to help you grow in the right direction.
That's fair enough. Yeah. Talking about social media and influencing, how's your journey been on this whole gamut of social media platforms? Obviously, coming on podcasts, having such positive conversations with different people is one way, but then on other platforms, be it LinkedIn or YouTube, you got a good set of YouTube followers and then got a lot of Facebook friends. I just checked. How's it coming along? Do people relate a lot to your content?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. For me, my company was always online,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, but
Mm-hmm.
I never was online personally until about 2018. So for me now, it's been almost a 6, 7 year journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I did it because it gave me the opportunity to humanize myself. It gave people the opportunity to kind of look under the hood and meet the owner of this company that's doing marketing,
Mm-hmm.
show some of my personal side, for people to see exactly who I am and what I do. So at first I looked at it like marketing, right? So I'm going to do this, I'm going to market myself and get people to know me.
Mm-hmm.
Then after years, I started to look at it as how do I create value? How do I inspire others? How
Mm-hmm.
do I uplift people who came from where I came from and show them, hey, you can do this, right? And that's kind of where it's at now is how much value I can add. So doing things like this podcast, sharing my journey, I'm not looking at it from a point of what am I going to get out of it, is what
Yeah.
value can I add to anybody platform. Most people look for the biggest platforms to be on, and I set a goal where I said, hey, I want to get on 100 podcasts this year.
Okay.
I think you're like number 26 so far.
Okay.
And that's my goal, to kind of get on as many as I can to kind of add as much value as I can. Next year could be 150 or 200, who knows? But
Yeah.
I blocked out the time to make sure at least 3, 4 times a week I'm adding value on someone podcast, sharing my journey or
Mm-hmm.
just answering questions that they think will help their audience.
Now, there's one very specific term you mentioned, humanizing content, right? Because that's very real. I mean, I've heard it time and time again from several people about making content relatable and things like that. Because as you mentioned, you started off thinking about it as marketing, and then your company had that channel specifically to reach out to people from the business point of view, but then you came in, you realized that people related to content only when they had this idea that, yeah, this is a real person and sharing real stories. So that's something that I've been hearing. Would you want to add something and you want to share a specific tip that you've grasped over the experience that you've had?
Yeah, those get the most traction, those
Yeah.
posts when you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, it has to be something that you're sharing from the heart. I
Hmm.
think people can sense that
Yeah.
when it's truly coming from you and it's not coming from like a chat GPT or
Mhm.
just the same thing you're posting on every channel.
Yeah.
Try to mix up things that you're posting on Instagram versus Facebook versus LinkedIn.
Hmm.
They're different audience,
Yeah.
different demographics. So you have to customize it towards those audience. But being vulnerable, with challenges you're having is real. And people
Yeah.
gravitate more towards the hardship than all of the look at me, I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
Um, I think when you show failure is more authentic and people, because there's people are going through it, right? And um no one has the heart to post that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
just try to be as authentic and vulnerable as you can and tell your story.
Yeah. Fuquan, I think I'm really sorry. I forgot to ask you about your company itself. We had so much conversation in between. But yeah, can you just tell me what your company actually does? Because yeah, at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, nngcapitalfund.com, nngcapitalfund.com. So we are a real estate asset management company.
Mhm,
I've been doing real estate for about 26 years. I started this company 12 years ago
mhm,
now, 2013, so almost 13 years ago. And we raise capital from accredited investors who want to partner with us to buy multifamily housing in the Southeast, Alabama, and Georgia, low income housing. When we first started the conversation, I told you that I come from low income area, single
mhm,
mom. So giving my fill of importance is going back to those communities and adding value. And how we do that is to provide quality, affordable housing. And then here, where we're based at in New Jersey, we do the luxury spec homes that will sell anywhere from $1.5 million to $2.5 million to high-end homeowners, high-end buyers, busy professionals, lawyers, doctors, those people. So
mhm.
that's kind of what we do in a nutshell in the real estate business.
Um, I'm just coming from a layman's perspective, right? I mean, I think this is the third or fourth time I'm listening about this particular business. Could you just run me through a typical day in usually what happens with you? I mean, in this business, just for the audience as well, as to what a typical day looks like in this business.
So we've developed relationships over the years with realtors, contractors,
Hmm.
anyone who has access, banks who sell real estate owned properties, anyone who has access to uh, primary residence single family homes, right, in northern New Jersey, about 25 to 30 minutes away from New York is where we buy. So, it's a lot of due diligence that's involved, underwriting the deals, making sure that they're profitable, getting contractor estimates from the contractors and builders, sourcing materials, pricing materials, making offers on properties, dealing with appraisers to validate value. A lot of that pretty much goes on in the real estate business. So that's the residential side. On the multifamily side, we built relationships with property managers, teams that do what we call capital expenditure constructions,
Okay.
where they do large renovations for us at the multifamily units. They can be turning anywhere from 25 to 50 apartments at a time.
Okay.
So, across the portfolio. So that's typically what a day looks like. Speaking to attorneys and plenty
Mhm.
of other vendors that's within that network.
Great. If you had to put a number to how many lives you've touched in this whole 3 decade journey that you had in your career, where would you put that ballpark figure?
You mean maybe people that's been influenced or that I've came across and added value to? Like, what do you mean?
I mean, not the,
Families that we've given
yeah,
homes to?
families, yeah, that kind of.
Oh wow, I would say thousands. I mean, at least on the low end, 3,000.
Right. That's a huge number. I mean, because that's a lot of value that you're adding, right? When it comes to these revamping infrastructure projects that you do. So thanks for joining me in for this episode. So if you can just share where people can get in touch with you before we shut this episode.
For sure. I'm all on social media at Fuquan Bilal. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Fuquan Bilal, LinkedIn, Fuquan Bilal. If you want to know more information on how to partner with us, you can go to nngcapitalfund.com and schedule a discovery call.
Thank you so much, Fukan. I mean, this conversation was, I mean, it went in all directions, to be very frank. We talked about positivity, we talked about social media, we talked about leadership, we talked about business. We learned about what your business does. So thanks a lot for giving all these insights to my audience. And thanks for joining me in on this episode. To the audience, if you liked any part of the episode, do give a like. If you related to something or if you have something to add, do leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe to the channel itself. Thank you, Furkan, and thank you to the audience for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.